Apologies to those of you who actually came at 1 o'clock, which is when we thought we were starting. We had a bit of a mix-up in terms of advertising the time, so I really do apologize to those of you who've been waiting, and especially the online audience, who we've got about 107 people signed up online, which is very good. But sadly, most of them have been waiting for half an hour, so apologies. Let's get started. We're here today to launch Humanitarian Exchange number 52, the new look Humanitarian Exchange, in fact, because we've opted for color photographs now, a new banner, and we've put the themes down at the bottom. So I hope that the format is also going to be of interest to you. But this, the focus of this special feature is humanitarian accountability. And we're looking at changes and challenges over, I would say, the last 10 years, really, the better part of the last 10 years. The last time HPN did an issue on accountability was about 8 or 9 years ago. So I'm going to let our speakers tell you more about that, but let me introduce myself first. I'm Wendy Fenton, and I'm the coordinator of the Humanitarian Practice Network. We're going to have a number of speakers today. I'll introduce them. We're trying to video conference in 2 people from Rome, and we've had a few technical difficulties, so they're going to probably call in at some point during the presentation, and we'll have to slot them in, but I'll introduce them in any case beforehand. A bit of housekeeping before we start. Directly outside here across the hallway and just around the corner is the ladies' loo. Round the corner, down the hallway around the corner is the gents. If you hear a continuous ringing, a fire alarm, please go out this way and down the stairs and outside the building through the front glass doors. Don't use the elevator. That would be the fire alarm. And please do turn off your mobile phones or put them on silent if you haven't already. Okay, these publications are out on the table there, and I think LNAP also has some publications that you might be interested in that they've put on the table. So please do help yourselves when you go through, but just leave any copies that say display copies only. Right. I'd like to introduce all of our speakers at the beginning so that we don't have to interrupt the flow. On my left is Paul Knox-Clark, who is with LNAP, and he joined LNAP at the beginning of 2011 as the head of research and communications. That's okay. And in this role, he focuses on accountability, leadership, and innovation, and the generation and use of evidence for organizational and systemic improvement. And Paul has a background in anthropology and began his career with Save the Children UK, where he worked on food security issues in several SCUK programs. And he co-authored the Household Economy Approach, which is a resource guide for practitioners. Paul then moved to WFP, where he established the UN's Food Security Monitoring Unit for Afghanistan, before working on issues of policy, particularly related to accountability and participation and organizational effectiveness at WFP's headquarters. So before joining LNAP, Paul was a director of a consulting company specializing in organizational effectiveness in international organizations. Now, Paul is going to be our first speaker, and Paul and John Mitchell, who's sitting here in the front, the director of LNAP, they co-edited this issue of the exchange with the Humanitarian Practice Network, and we were very happy to have their involvement in this, given the focus that LNAP has on accountability issues. HAP International also was very supportive of this issue, and they helped us to identify potential writers who would be interested, and we're hoping to have another event in Geneva around the 8th or 9th of December for those who can't make it here. Now, Paul, I'd like to hand over to you in just a minute, but I'll introduce the others first. So on my right here is David Bainbridge, and David is the International Director for Tear Fund, and he has had that role since September 2010. And he's been with Tear Fund for 11 years, previously serving as Disaster Management Director and leading Tear Fund's strategy of preparing for and responding to disasters. And this included the development of Tear Fund's humanitarian accountability mechanisms. Now, David's been involved in international research and development for 25 years, and he's lived in Sudan and the Caribbean. And he's also been involved and lived in Canada, and he's now been in London, as we said, for the last 11 years. And I suppose he's been most closely involved in programming in South Sudan in Darfur, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and the DRC. Now, our two speakers who are in Rome, and we're hoping to connect up somehow, are Gwyn Lewis from FAO and Brian Lander from WFP, and they're the co-chairs of the Interagency Steering Committee subgroup on accountability to affected populations. And they wrote an article for the issue on collective accountability and some of the developments that are being discussed within and acted on within the IASC. So Gwyn is a humanitarian policy advisor at FAO's headquarters in Rome and serves as the agency's IASC focal point. Prior to FAO, Gwyn worked for OCHA in various roles, including a field posting in the OPT. And she's also worked with DPKO, Department of Peacekeeping Operations in Kosovo, ICRC, and various NGOs in Tajikistan and Albania. And Brian, who's with WFP, let me do this quickly before we... Sorry. Yes, Brian may actually be online.
Okay.
Hello?
Brian.
Hello?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Yes?
Is that Brian?
No, that was our technician here. It's Brian now and Gwyn here as well.
Okay. Hi, Brian and Gwyn. I was just introducing you, in fact, in advance.
Okay, thank you.
So, Gwyn, I'm afraid I've already introduced you, so you've missed that. But I'm going to carry on with Brian's introduction. And Paul, we're going to change the format so we can let them go ahead to accommodate the technology. So, as I was saying, Brian is a senior external relations officer at WFP's headquarters in Rome and serves as the agency's IASC focal point. Prior to WFP, he worked with UNHCR in various capacities, including field postings in China and Indonesia, as well as extended missions to several emergency operations. Brian's academic background includes studies in Chinese, language, international relations, and development management. Now, without further ado, Brian and Gwyn, I'm going to let you go ahead and give your presentation, please. I'm very sorry about the failure of technology, but at least we can hear you.